up, everybody, no more sleeping in bed. No more backwards thinking, time for thinking ahead. The world has changed so very much from what it used to be. There's so much hate. I know we can do it if we all lend a hand.
Welcome to Truth Forum, a forum to discuss truth in a friendly surrounding like we do at home at the kitchen table. I do have the rights of these songs noted from the licensed BMI. I'm your host, Dr. Smith. I will lead compelling, relatable, and honest conversation. My guests will range from community leaders, professionals, and real people whose stories will touch and inspire you. Discussion will center around relationships, real stories of personal struggles, and amazing triumphant and compelling topics in the news, pop culture, and the city and the nation attention. If you would like to be a guest at the kitchen table, you may call us at 269-962-5553 or email us at kingdombuilders2@gmail.com. Before I introduce my guest, Ms. Jamerson, I'd like to thank my producer, Tiffany Smith, Carl English in his absence, Mr. Campbell. We on the camera, we have Yvonne Armstrong, my co-host Deacon Jones, program coordinator Kara Bolden, and Kaliana is now doing the Facebook Live for us. My vision is to catalyze, energize, and bring people together. I want to share some things that are extremely essential. If we're going to be successful in anything, especially in business, we got to work together. We have to know who is in the network. We cannot be ignorant of ourselves. We have to reawake the African people. See, that's what they did back in our homeland. They talked, they conversated, they shared, they dialogued. And that's what we're going to do today. Storytelling is an obligation of all leadership. In order to make the connection, we got to talk about where we came from, where we've been, and where we're going. Today, I'm excited to introduce to you not just a guest, but an old friend back in the 4th grade at Dudley Elementary School. Welcome to the kitchen table, Miss Tamara Robertson Jamerson. All right, y'all, let's give God a praise for her. Wow. You know, Tamara, first of all, they put the show together and they contact the people. And I just, before I even introduce you and have you say something, I want to say to you personally, me being gone, knowing you since the 4th grade, I'm just so proud of all that you have already done, what you're doing. And I just think it's awesome that we're reconnecting now, just in trying to touch the lives of the people. So before we even have you say something, I want to tell you I really respect what you're doing, and I take my hat off to you. All right. Doug Jones, introduce yourself, man. Glad you're at the table.
Doug Jones from Battle Creek, Michigan, deacon at Kingdom Builders Worldwide. And it's an honor to be here with the host, Bishop Tino Smith, and I'm excited to hear what Miss Tammy Robinson Jamerson has to say today.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Tamara, we always ask you to just start off. Give us like a, just a basic intro, because we have questions for you. You know, you're married to Kim folks and you got children and all that. So just give us the basic right now.
The basics right now. Tamara Robinson Jamerson was born here in Battle Creek, graduated from Battle Creek Central in 1984. Best class ever.
Well, I don't know about that.
1984. Married, 4 kids. Professionally, I've worked overseas while Ron was in the military. So I worked in Italy, Germany, Texas, Oklahoma, Chicago, Battle Creek, Kalamazoo.
All over the place.
All over the place. And with Battle Creek Public Schools for 10 years. Which was awesome because I became the principal of our elementary school, Dudley Elementary School, and was there for about 7 years before I moved on to Kalamazoo Public Schools, and then back to Battle Creek at Lakeview School District.
Okay.
So before, and you kind of already answered some of my questions because I got a veteran, since you're a veteran. But before we even go there, Tell me, what inspired you to want to be? Okay, let's just go back to elementary. I would have never wanted to be a teacher. I'm just thinking about the kind of student I was. Okay, so I'm thinking about Miss Van Cleve, Miss Poet. The names I can remember must have been important to me. Miss Van Cleve, Miss Poet, Mr. Lee, Mr. Stout, or Mrs. Deering. So I can remember their names.
Yes.
Mr. Cavaluna, he used to paddle me constantly. So they did have an impact on me, Miss Jamison, but I never would wanted to be a teacher at an elementary. What inspired you to even want to go down that field?
Wow. I think, initially I wanted to be an attorney.
Okay.
So initially I wanted to be an attorney. I actually wanted to be a prosecuting attorney. But when we moved overseas, I couldn't find any classes to complete or continue my studies. So I ended up at a Dodd school as a substitute teacher.
Now help us out. What is the Dodd school?
It's a Department of Defense schools.
Okay,
So
okay.
just for military kids on a military base.
Okay.
And so in doing that, became a cheerleading coach. I worked every day, started working with kiddos, and made a course change for myself and said, I think I would be better served if I try to help children before they get themselves in a pickle. And really enjoyed the work that I did with the students. So I did a course change and decided to go into education.
Wow. Okay. Well, you're definitely one of our veterans. You're a veteran educator in Battle Creek area currently, and what made you go into the education? You told us about that, a little bit about your journey. What are some of the issues you say today are facing the children today? And this is your show, so. It's your show. It's your time to share what you feel. What are some of the issues that you feel is faced? Now, first of all, I see your son. He's older, playing basketball. So what's your oldest child, and then what's the baby?
The oldest is 30,
Okay.
and the baby, which is the boy, will be 19 in about 2 weeks.
So when I say facing children, I'm talking about children younger. We're talking about right now. We're talking about Carliana's age. What would you say are the issues today?
I would say that kiddos are exposed to way too much now.
Now, educate me. You keep saying kiddos. You talking about kids?
I'm talking about students, children.
Okay.
I call my babies kiddos.
Oh, see, talk to me, because I know
students,
kiddos.
yeah, our students
I thought
are
it was something to eat or
I know. Tell me about it.
Okay.
Our kids are exposed to way too much. When you think about the impact that social media has on them, you think about the movies that they see, the music that they listen to, the adult conversations that their parents include them in, people wanting to be their child's friend as opposed to being a parent.
Right.
And children need to be parented. They don't need you to be their friend. They have friends at school. And sometimes that rubs people the wrong way when I say that. But those are just some things that I see. I mean, I have students that'll sit right in front of the parent if I'm having a conversation and will be disrespectful to the parent. And I'm the one that has to look at the child and say, excuse me, did you just say that to your mother, or did you just say that to your father?
Right.
Or we need you to, stop talking right now. And so I think it's just a gamut of things in the world today. And people are just mean and nasty, and that's part of our politics now too.
Yeah. I have a question. So when you see that in school, when a child is disrespecting the parent, some of that falls back on the parent. A lot of it does. I mean, there's a lot of challenges kids have today.
Yes.
But a lot of that respect and disrespect starts at home.
Correct.
Before you even get to the school.
Correct.
So why do parents allow it, or how do we get to this point? Because it wasn't like that when we were growing up.
It wasn't.
You might have got smacked in the mouth. You said something smart, to your mom or your dad. But why is it like that now?
I think, in my opinion, and a theory that I have, is that because one thing that disappoints me just a little bit, it's a lot of children I see doing it that actually grew up with us during our time. We're their parents. So I don't know if it goes back to what you just said about the level of discipline that we received, expectation. We were held accountable for that. And I think that some people might be going the other way and saying that, you get a parent that says, I'm never going to spank my child. My parents spank me, I'm never going to spank my child. So they go the whole opposite way, and that might not be the way. So I think we need to really think about what it is we want for our children, and what we want from schools and education, and how adults can support one another, as opposed to arguing and being at one another's throat about what's best for kids, because I believe everybody wants what's best for kids.
So let me ask you this, or share, because I knew that was going to come up, about our generation. But if we be honest, this is going to make us old. It's not really, because that's why I asked her children. Her child, they're grown, close to grown. My kids grown, close to grown. It's their children. Now, we do have some of our generation who waited really late to have kids.
Yeah.
But, you specialize K through 5. So when you talk about K through 5, we're talking about our children.
Grandchildren.
Right.
So my question becomes, we know the way we were raised, and then we know the way we were raised towards our child. Somewhere the gap, Tamara, Ms. Jamison, is going with the third generation. So DJ, you look at your grandchildren. I don't have any yet. Did you have any yet?
No.
Okay, so we good. So you look at your grandchildren, you did well with Ashley, but will Ashley have that same mindset with her child, because those are the students that Ms. Jamison is teaching. So that's the question we need to start asking, not so much of us anymore. What is that concept, Ms. Jamison, you would say about, we were so busy giving our children what we didn't have, we end up giving them almost everything, and then maybe they felt to train their children was different. That's the generation I'm concerned about. I don't think it's...
Yep.
So what's your take on that? How would you look at that?
You know what? I think you kind of hit the nail on the head, but again, remember, what I see a lot of in society today is just a sense of entitlement.
Okay.
People just think they're, entitled to whatever they want. You don't have to work hard.
Right.
Everything's going to be given to you. Everybody's against you. We can't work together, because if we work together, then that means that I'm not going to get the spotlight, or you're not going to get the spotlight. So I think a lot of it is that we're just, I hate to use that word, but selfish.
How do we get that way? How did the kids get that way?
It's hard to say, how did the kids get this way? It goes right back to parenting. And so I think in asking young people today to think about what is it that they truly want for their kids, what they truly want for your community, your world, you need to instill that in your children, because I tell people all the time, the very child that's sitting next to your child in the classroom could end up being their best friend, or they could end up being their murderer. You just don't know. So as a community, we need to get back to community parenting, and we don't do that. People don't want you to say anything to their kid. The kids will tell you, you're not my mama, you're not your daddy, my daddy, and you're thinking to yourself, well, I really don't want to be. I'm just trying to help you focus, tell you what's right and wrong. So we've got to get back to that. It's okay for community to help you to raise your child. Okay. It really, really is.
So me remembering you had a mom and a dad, okay? And the beautiful thing is they're still alive.
Yep.
And that's a beautiful thing to have. Doug, you had a mom and dad. Now, first of all, let me change that. We all have a mom and a dad. You all were raised with a mom and a dad in the home. Same way with you. So that's a very, 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 very small percentage where when you have a conference, there's a mom and a dad that lives in the same house. Instead of us always hearing, that's one of the problems, and we know that's one of the problems, how do you get father involved, even though father can't stand the mama or father just busy? What is one of your strategies as an educator, setting in conferences, and dad is not there? Is it against the law or the policy to ask about the father? Is that infringing on their privacy? Are you allowed to ask that question, first of all?
I wouldn't say it's infringing, and actually we do ask that question, because sometimes when you come in to register, and you hand over that birth certificate, and that man's name is on that birth certificate, a lot of times we'll be asked by the mother, well, he's not involved, and I don't want you talking to him. And what we explain to them is that we can't deny speaking to the dad. So if the dad wants to call, if he wants to come in, it's his right to do that, and it's his right to parent also. Sometimes it's kind of hard to bridge people in that. So we do that in many ways. Sometimes you do a dual conference if they can manage to sit together and have that conference. Sometimes you do just a mom conference, and sometimes you do a dad conference, which can be difficult for teachers also, because it is time consuming, but they do it for children so that both families can get that information. If I have a question and the dad is a part of the context, I'll call him, I'll talk to him. If something happens at the school that's pertinent to the father, I'll give him a call, even if the child doesn't live in the home with the dad. But most of the time, the mother has said, it's okay, and I just kind of talk to people about those kinds of things and how it impacts kids.
So Ms. Jamison, you mentioned earlier that you've basically been all over, and which is a beautiful thing, because it was not until I traveled to Europe and Africa that I saw the world differently. I used to see things black and white. So in Battle Creek, small city, or just America, period, I go black, white, black, white, black, white, black, white.
Yeah.
But when I go outside of this country, I see things different.
Yes.
And I'm saying that because I noticed, you said you've been in Italy?
Yep. We lived there for 3 years.
3 years.
Yeah.
So you got definitely diversity in culture and everything. I'm just going to throw it out there. You a home girl and you in Lakeview.
Yeah.
Okay, talk to me about that. Is that and there's nothing wrong with you being in Lakeview. I want to know, is that because you are bigger than, tell me how that happened, if you like to. How did because you mentioned you was at Dudley, right?
Yes. Yep.
So if you like, share with me the crossover, and then tell me, this whole Lakeview, because when we grew up, Lakeview wasn't like the school you and I could go to.
Right.
Right? Okay, and then, so talk to me about
Yeah.
that.
So when you talk about that global experience that you have from us traveling, it did give me kind of a different vision of the world and connecting with different people and different cultures. And to be honest with you, when I came back to Battle Creek, I was pretty disappointed.
What year was that when you came back?
I moved back here in 2004.
Okay.
And I was pretty disappointed because I think the Battle Creek that I thought it was or knew, when I came back, it was not. I mean, still segregated to me in a lot of ways, between North Side, South Side, color neighborhoods. Where I lived in San Antonio, Illinois, Oklahoma, those neighborhoods were mixed, and I mean they were very, very mixed. So when I came back, in going to Dudley, I went there because that's where my heart was. The population, families, kids, friends, kids, really felt I could make an impact in the community, and I feel like I did while I was there. I wanted to try something different after my stint with Battle Creek, and I don't know if that's just because I was kind of used to, after every 2 to 3 years, have to pack up and move and go someplace else, but I wanted to try to do something a little bit different and wanted to try to progress in a larger district. So that's when I went to Kalamazoo Public Schools.
Okay.
And and got that, that experience there, which was interesting because with the promise there, Kalamazoo is more mixed than I think people see it as being, as far as cultures and things like that. And then when that position at Lakeview came open 3 years ago at Westlake, I don't know if you all remember Carol Disler, but she used to be the principal at Post Elementary School before Post Elementary School closed, and did some other things in Battle Creek School District. And she contacted me and told me that she thought I would be the perfect fit for Westlake and Lakeview. And I will tell you honestly, this is what I said. I said, Carol, I said, are they ready for a person of color out there to lead that school? And she said, yeah, they are. Because again, Tino, remember when we were kids, you weren't. That just wasn't something that we would or could probably have done at that particular time. But another thing that just really, really intrigued me was how many kids from Battle Creek were choosing to go to Lakeview that looked like me. But then you don't have any representation that looks like me. And then people have tried it. There's been some difficulties, so you put your foot in there just to test it out to see how it's going to go.
Right.
And so I just decided to kind of take that leap of faith, because I think kids need to see people that look like them, and kids who don't look like you need to see people that don't look like them.
Right.
So I think I have a double impact in the district for students of color and white students who don't normally interact with a person of color on a regular basis.
So you were the first African American at that school? Principal?
At the principal at the school that I'm currently at, yes, the first one.
Now, Deacon, where's Westlake at?
It's out in Lakeview. I'm not sure exactly what street it's on, but I know it's
24th Street.
24th Street.
Behind the high school.
Is that where you're at presently?
Yes, I am.
Oh,
And next year I'll be at the middle school.
Principal?
Yeah,
What middle school?
Lakeview Middle School.
You be the principal at, really?
Yeah.
They have like grade principals?
So, I know this is so exciting. You might have to calm me down. So we have a new superintendent, Blake Pruitt.
He was on the show.
He was on the show, and very progressive, thoughtful, thinks about what's good for kids. And so Lakeview Middle School has about, I want to say, a little over 1,300 kids in the building, grades 5 through 8, with a building principal, an assistant principal. I think they've got a dean of students, someone to support behavior, and 2 counselors. Mr. Pruitt decided that that's too big, and it's overwhelming when a 5th grader who is, some of them are like that tall, and they're 10 years old, and you walk into a building, and it's just, it's huge. And a lot of times you end up being maybe a child with, and when I say a child without a name, I don't mean it in a negative way, but I mean there is no way for a building principal to get to know 1,400 kiddos.
Yeah.
It's not. So when you think about, and then for parents, you want to be personable to your parents. You want to know your parents by their name if possible. You want to know their children by name if possible. So Mr. Pruitt decided that he was going to do the concept of 2 schools in a school. So I'm going to be the principal for the 5-6 cohort.
Okay.
And Mr. Don Pearson from Benton Harbor is going to be the principal for the 7-8 cohort.
No. You said Benton Harbor.
Yeah.
I don't want to stereotype. Benton Harbor.
Yeah,
Is that an African American?
yes it is.
Wait, so you're telling me that Lakeview next year, middle school, is going to have 2 African Americans?
Yes, you are. And each of us have, and each of
pretty
us
impressive.
pretty impressive.
That's pretty impressive.
And-
Lakeview District, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep. And so I'm going to have my own assistant principal, who is a current teacher there, Mrs. Trudy Stitt. Absolutely love her. She's going to be awesome for kids and parents. Also have my own counselor, Mr. Schweitzer. And then we're working on some behavior supports to service kids with their social emotional needs. And then on the other side, Don will have his own AP, which will be Shelley Lamb. And she was our district math coordinator, but she'll be his AP. And they'll also have a counselor, Deb Miller, and someone to help support kids with their social emotional needs. So it's exciting for us right now. When parents come back in August, they'll see the physical plan of the building change. There'll be separate entrances for the 5-6 school and the 7-8 school. There'll be some painting done, some remodeling and revamping done to make it look more pleasing to children. So
This is going to start next year?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep, in the fall. So we're really excited about the upcoming change.
That's amazing. So tell me, what do you think about the standardized testing for our children, and how are they doing as a whole? And if you can try to translate that in the Battle Creek Public School, do that. Just as a whole, what you think about the standardized testing? And break it down to everybody. You know, we're using the term, but kind of let everybody know what that means.
So those tests are tests that the state and the federal government require us
Okay.
to administer to the kids
Okay.
to make sure, as an accountability piece,
Okay.
to kind of monitor
Okay.
if children are learning what they need to learn in school by a certain grade, certain milestones that they need to have in reading and mathematics. So we're required to give those tests. How do I feel about those tests? I feel that the accountability piece is necessary. We need to know if our schools are doing what they need to do for kids. I don't agree with, sometimes those tests are pretty taxing for children. So it could take, for the state assessment, sometimes I've seen kids take 3 hours, 4 hours to take the test. And my belief, and I believe a lot of educators probably believe, that you don't have to have a test that takes 3 hours to see if a child knows how to read.
Okay.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? You don't have to take a
Right.
math test that takes 3 hours to see if the child can do math skills within their grade or their age level. So I think in trying to hold people accountable, I think we get a little overzealous. And I'm hoping that someone looks at that one day and say, yeah, maybe we can tone this down a little bit for the good of kids.
So what is your, when I think of Harbor Creek, Lakeview, Penfield, and Battle Creek, where are we? I had a chance to meet the superintendent, and I enjoyed that conversation for Central. And I also had a chance to meet the superintendent of Lakeview on the show. Not Harbor Creek yet, not Penfield. Where are we in that bridging the gap? So it's not like 4 different churches. We got 4 different churches. I go over here, I go over there. We all supposed to be trying to share the same message of love and redemption. But how do we, what is the strategy of trying to bring us together, or are we in competition? And I don't know how much you can be at liberty to share that now, but are we at, I don't have children, but if I had grandchildren, what do I look at? Do I go to Lakeview? Do I go to Penfield? Do I go to Harbor Creek? Do I stay in the Battle Creek area? What's that looking like to y'all?
Well, I would say that now, as far as the 4 districts, and again, I'll go back to my experiences of living in Texas and overseas and many other states. Battle Creek is pretty small to have 4 school districts.
Okay.
People might not like hear me say this, but I am. You got 4 districts paying 4 superintendents, 4 assistant superintendents, 4 curriculum specialists, 4 human resources. Battle Creek is pretty small compared to the other school districts that I've worked in, to have a system that's set that way. But
That's a good point.
would anyone here be ready and willing to talk about what that looks like? I'm not sure. But as far as the superintendents, I do know that they are having conversations around things like restorative practices and equity and how do we better service the children in the community. So I do see those dialogues happening.
So we had 55,000 in the city, about close to 100 in the whole Calhoun County area. So Kalamazoo is a little larger.
Yes,
How many districts do they have?
they have, Kalamazoo has Kalamazoo Public Schools.
That's what I'm trying to make.
They have Kalamazoo Public Schools. Now you have Portage there,
Yeah,
but
okay.
you have Portage, and then Comstock sits off a little bit too. But Kalamazoo is Kalamazoo Public Schools.
And that's larger than Battle Creek. though.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
But they do have more private schools in Kalamazoo, right?
They do have more, I would say, either private or charters.
Okay.
A few more, yeah.
Because Christian's a private school. Is Hackett a private school?
Nope, Hackett is not.
Hackett's a public school.
Hackett is a public.
Okay.
Yeah,
And
Hackett
that's
is
a good
public.
point. They have 1 school district with how many schools? 5?
Whoa.
5 high schools?
Whoa, they have a lot of schools.
Yeah.
Yeah, Kalamazoo
5 or 6.
Public has a lot of schools.
So technically, in the Battle Creek area, Calhoun County, we only have really 4 high schools. You said we got Lakeview,
Well, actually 5, if you want to count St. Phil.
St. Phil. Okay, okay, 5, and Kalamazoo has more than 5.
Kalamazoo has, I'm trying to think. Kalamazoo Central,
The Central,
Norix, the alternative
Norix,
school.
yeah. There's
I can't think of the other one.
Yeah, it's a charter school. There's
That's
quite
a
a
very,
Hackett.
very good point. I've never thought about it. I'm for sure it's been discussed. But so with that saying, my tax dollars is not really impacted by what Hopper Creek does, correct? Okay, let's say we did have one superintendent. How's that financially going to protect my tax? It doesn't, does it?
I would. That would be. That
judicial,
would be
legal.
I don't know if it would be legal or anything, but it would just be a structure that would have to be. It would have to be totally retooled.
Wow.
It would be retooled because Battle Creek Public has I think a millage vote on May 8th.
Yeah.
So if you're registered to vote, please go vote yes. Thank you. And
tell us why.
it's to support we have to continue to support our city school.
Okay.
We have to support the city school. I know a lot of people have their angst about the schools and the districts, but communities are only strong if your public education system is.
Okay.
And if it's not, you're not going to have businesses want to come here. You're not going to want. No one's going to want to come here for growth and development.
Okay.
So our public school systems have to be strong.
Okay.
They have to.
Were you around when the schools started closing down, the middle schools, when we got rid of the 4 schools that we all went to, the WK, the Northwestern, the Southeastern, the Southwestern, and we stopped being Wildcats, Hilltoppers, Comet?
I was here during some of that transition.
What was the rationale behind that where everybody became Bearcats? Because I haven't yet got an answer. I'm back home. And I go to I go to Northwestern looking for green and
The
white,
Viking.
and looking for Viking, and I saw Bearcats. I go to Southeastern and I don't see red and white. I go to Southwestern, I don't see burgundy and white, and WK, I don't see blue and white. Do you know the rationale why we came? Was it because of the attendance or the population or
It
what?
was, I think it was several things. School of choice started to
Okay.
ramp up.
Okay.
Battle Creek losing 500 kids on average at some time, at some point in time a year, schools closing, and we started to see, I think, a dwindling in brand loyalty. Because, when we were kids, we wanted to be a Bearcat.
Right.
That's where you wanted to go. It didn't matter if you were a Comet or a Viking or
Right.
a
Was
Hilltopper.
looking forward to it.
You were
Right.
looking forward to becoming a Bearcat.
Yes.
So we started seeing that kind of loyalty begin to wane.
Okay.
And so I think the belief behind that was that we were becoming so small, wouldn't it behoove us to just be Bearcats?
I
We're,
see.
we're one family. We're all Bearcats, whether you're in elementary or junior high, and we want to see you take that pride and funnel that into Battle Creek Central High School.
So what's Lakeview?
Vikings.
Are they
Spartans,
Vikings?
we're
Spartans, I'm sorry.
Are they Spartans?
Sorry, Lakeview.
Are they Spartans in middle school?
Yes,
So they've always been that way?
as far as I know. And there's Spartans in elementary also.
So they've always been that way?
Yeah,
How about
Lakeview's
Hopper
always
Creek?
been the
What's
Spartans.
Hopper Creek?
Beavers.
They're the Beavers.
They've always been Beavers.
I think they've always been Beavers.
Okay, well, that's a good point.
Yeah.
That's a very good point that I have yet to
Right.
even think about. So,
man, back then, they only had one middle school.
Yes.
Lakeview
Yeah,
had
you're
one
right.
middle
They
school.
sure
Harper
did.
had one middle
They
school.
sure did.
And we had 4.
they sure did.
know.
They sure did.
Yes.
We were big.
And then there was
So-
Springfield back then too.
Exactly.
Springfield was
Yes,
opening.
yes. So here comes that big question, because you're bringing something very new to the table, and I really appreciate what you're doing, what you're saying. How do we, not to say we want to do that, but how do we get rid of the thought that, okay, Lakeview is for them, never really was for us, so I'm going to fight it until the end. But now we're starting to hire African Americans that we knew grew up and doing very well. How do we bridge that gap? Because there's a lot of, as you say, people of color going to Lakeview now. But then my next question is going to be, are we going to Hopper Creek yet?
There's a few that go out to Harper Creek. There's some that go out to Harper Creek.
I mean, is Hopper Creek becoming what Lakeview used to be?
No,
Interesting.
I don't think so. No.
Okay.
No.
Why you say that? 'Cause I'm just asking.
Just from my experiences with the public schools in the area officiating, I kind of see, and know some of the people in the schools, some of the coaches and, some of the teachers. And I don't think they're going backwards. I think they're moving forward, kind of like where Lakeview is.
But I'm talking about percentage-wise. Like, for an example, Lakeview is now pretty, I'm not going to say y'all balanced are, y'all.
The number of students.
No, I'm talking about the diversity.
The diversity, Lakeview is more diverse than it's ever been. To give you the percentages, I couldn't give it to you off the top of my head, but we do have a high population of African American students, Hispanic students, Japanese students, Burmese students, Indian students. So you do see diversity in the student body.
And we still have that at Central.
Yes. And St. Harper Creek also.
It is?
Yes, it is. Levi Watkins' son played basketball there at Harper Creek. There's a lot of African American kids that go to
Trayvon did.
Yes, Harper Creek.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. And then you have Penfield.
And you got Penfield, who's diverse also.
Yes.
So we really don't have an issue. Now, our person left us on Facebook, so I don't know if you can ask some questions right now. We do apologize, but I want to know, do you feel there's some diversity issues? Because my host is like being godly, positive, and beautiful, anointed, and I admire them all. But are you telling me that Harper Creek, are you telling me that Penfield is just as diverse now? Is that what y'all telling me? I don't even see what you're saying, but I'm going to look at it when this show is over. But according to Doug Jones here and Miss Tamra, they're saying...
No.
Okay.
I would say Lakeview is the most diverse out of the three.
Right.
I would say that you see, I want to say, speckles or sprinkles of diversity coming into the other ones, but not as diverse.
Those schools are more diverse than they've been in the past also.
Yes.
I don't know what the percentage is, but they are more diverse than they were before.
Now, let's talk economics. Is the cost of living different? I've been gone for a long time. If I want to buy me a home in that area, is the cost of living different in Lakeview, Harper Creek, Penfield, or Battle Creek?
Taxes are higher in Lakeview and Harper.
Okay.
I do know that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And when you think about it, I mean, I've even had when people do move into town, steer themselves away from the homes in Battle Creek or the Battle Creek school district. Without them actually experiencing it for themselves. And so that's a problem too. That's why I say if you don't have strong schools, you're not going to have a strong community. People aren't going to want to live there. Businesses aren't going to want to come and invest. They're going to leave. So, and we all know Battle Creek we need a little more here to be able to do. We don't have JCPenney's anymore, nor do we have Macy's.
Or Kmart.
So,
Kmart. Kmart's
or
closed.
Kmart.
Yeah.
So what does that look like for us as a community?
Okay, so with that being said, 'cause now you're going to come down my level when I deal with the economics.
Yeah.
The mall is Lakeview District.
Yeah, it's out in Lakeview.
Okay, that's all Lakeview. So you have in certain urban cities, Detroit, Chicago, St. Louis, you got a lot of check cashing places. Okay, and then you have rent-to-own places, which I have challenges with because it's teaching poor financial stewardship. But now it's right in Lakeview. Now I want you to understand my concept. If you got a low credit score, you got a check cashing place, and you got a rent-a-center. That was a norm that used to take place in a predominantly minority or African American school population. Now, because our city, the city of Battle Creek, and we need to get a map, I don't think there's actually any services in Battle Creek. If you go by your map, what are the services we have in Battle Creek? Go by the map, what store do we have in Battle Creek? Go by the map, what do we have in Battle Creek? I mean, where we're going to Lakeview. Columbia is Lakeview, correct?
Yep.
And I guess you get on 20th Street, and I guess Dickman becomes Battle Creek.
I think so.
To a degree.
Yeah, to a degree.
So I think Kmart may have been the only thing in Battle Creek.
Yes.
Department store.
Yes.
And that's what we need to look at. We need to see, and you're absolutely right. If there's nothing in our community, then it's going to be hard to get folks to move in our community. And education, I mean, that's something that I think we need to share with our mayor and all those involved. I mean, think about that, Deacon.
It's true.
Educator, think about it. We have absolutely nothing in our city, and I can't even get upset when I drive down Columbia and see a check cashing place, because if that was in the city of Battle Creek, that would bother me. But the reality is not. It's in Lakeview, because I think Lakeview and Battle Creek, I think we're all somehow merging somehow, because they even had a conversation with Kalamazoo merging. But the reality is, I think Battle Creek, I think Penfield, I think Harper Creek, I think if we can come together more, we could probably do more for our whole area.
Right. And I mean, they are Battle Creek.
Yeah, they are Battle Creek.
They're just, you know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
Just extensions, and,
Right.
and you hold on to those identities, but we are Battle Creek.
Yes.
So if one part of the city is not doing well, none of us are doing well.
Yes.
If one part of our city have children who are suffering and not getting the things that they need, then we
Yes.
should all be upset about that.
Yes.
Because
Yes.
we're all suffering at that point
Yes.
in time. So I think, that goes back to that me kind of mentality, as opposed to we.
Yeah.
Because you take care of your own children.
Right.
Everybody knows that.
Yeah.
But you mean to tell me you can't care about somebody else's?
Yeah.
And we've got to really think about that concept and how that could impact us.
You answered it, but I want to still throw it out as a question. So what position do you hold as a Lakeview school? I understand the position as a principal, but what is your position about just Lakeview School District, period? What is a former Battle Creek native position about, hey, what's your thought about Lakeview? What is that called? Knowing other folks may have a challenge which you're not. What's your position?
Yeah, you know, my position is this. Blake, Mr. Pruitt is the new superintendent. He started this year.
Okay.
I started under Dave Peterson, the old superintendent, who had really begun to dig in to work around equity and equitable practices, and how do you treat people of color? How do you treat people with disabilities? How do we treat transgender children? How do we address those needs of what some people would say the minority, but we don't like to use that word anymore. So how do you treat the needs of people who have been marginalized over the years? I've seen that work happening in the district, and it's exciting for me, and I know a lot of people don't see it, but the work is there, the work is coming, the work is going to be pushed, because we have a superintendent who believes in it, and the work is going to continue. We're starting an African American parent network at Lakeview School District, and that liaison will be available for African American parents to reach out to them if they have a problem, a question, a concern, need some assistance. I also tell people, if you need something, you have a question, they can contact me. I'll tell them how do you go about getting what you need, because there is a way to go about getting what you need. If you go in any place wrong, people gonna shut you out. They're not gonna listen to you. You're not gonna get what you need.
Right.
So there is a way to do it. But those are all the things I see happening at Lakeview, and it's gonna take some time. Lakeview wasn't this didn't just start with us.
Right.
This is historical. Just people's feeling about Lakeview and why some people won't put their kids out there and why some people do put their kids out there. But it's a good district, and we're doing good work.
So how are we, and I know my time is, y'all let me know where I'm at on time. How are we dealing with, because you threw it out there, so I want to know, are we dealing with transgender now? Is that something that has started in the elementary or the public school? Is it here in Battle Creek? I mean, I don't want to sound naive, but because you mentioned it,
Yeah.
I want to talk about it.
Yeah, I think, not on a large scale. I do know of a couple of students who do struggle with their identity. They struggle and they don't feel comfortable with that struggle or sharing that. So not on a high scale, but when you just think about equity and how we treat one another as human beings, and you think about gay and lesbian community and those other who are people, because we're all people. And then what does that look like as an educational institution, how we treat them when they walk through our doors? How do we make them feel? And that includes people of color. So it's an interesting dynamic, and the training is going to be dynamic and has been for the past couple of years, but it's going to be done at a greater extent now. And again, I think people are going to see a lot of positive change at Lakeview School District.
Do you see that coming? Do you see that? Excuse me, Nikki. Do you see the transgender and the other choices, lifestyle? I don't want to say creepy, but in our schools.
That's a question I was going to ask.
Do you see it getting strong?
I don't. You know, that's. See, I'm in elementary, so elementary, that's just the whole different.
They don't have those issues right now.
No, we don't have those issues. I would not be able to speak to the middle or the high school, even though I've been in the middle school. I haven't seen a lot of those issues either. Most issues with children now are based on just how you interact as human beings, fellow human beings to one another. How do you be respectful? How do you speak to one another respectfully? How do you interact respectfully? Those are the kind of challenges I see with children.
But isn't there curriculums now at your age level where there's, having like Sally has 2 dads? And
we don't do that.
Really?
No, we don't have a curriculum like that.
So none of that stuff is true. Those are just myths.
I don't know where people.
Not in Battle Creek yet.
I don't know where people are getting that. Look, this is what I have in my elementary school. The little sex ed class, health class that they have in schools. That's what our kids are exposed to. That's what they're exposed to.
Okay. So again, you kind of answered the question, but I'm throwing it out there. So you feel Lakeview is still committed to working on the diversity plan they were putting in place a couple of years? Because you kind of answered it already. They're kind of doing that.
Yes.
And Mr. Blake is Blake, right?
Yep, Blake Pruitt.
He's really going to the next level.
He is going to go to the next level, and Lakeview, if we keep in the direction, we will be the premier school district.
Is that
because
right?
it will be one that services all children. So, and I'm confident in that. I am.
Well, it's nice to know that Blake is going in that direction, to have, an open mind to diversity.
Yes.
That's a start.
It is.
And you have to go somewhere. And we have to start somewhere.
You have to start somewhere.
And so I take my hat off to him, and I commend him for what he's doing.
Yep, he's doing a good job.
Someone did ask, and we apologize if we don't have your name, but someone asked about the bullying. Talk about that bullying thing.
Bullying. Oh, wow. As with any school district, there is a no bullying policy. You try to get on it as much as possible. You try to have the counselors and the teachers and the principals work with kids to kind of settle these bullying issues. That's one reason why I said social media is a big problem. That bullying piece that happens a lot over social media happens outside of school, and then when it happens outside of school, it spills into the school. So then we have to take the time away from trying to educate your child or your grandchildren to address those issues about bullying. But bullying, you can't bully. So if your child is having a problem with a bully, you need to keep saying something to someone. You need to keep going to the school. You need to keep trying to address the issue and push the issue, because it shouldn't be tolerated. I don't think any of my colleagues would readily tolerate it, but a lot of times we don't know. And that's the beauty of bullying for the bully, because they're banking on the fact that that child is going to be so petrified that they're not going to tell anyone.
I think the parents nowadays they have to be focused on their kids. If their kids are subject to or susceptible to bullying, because bullying will never go away. It's always going to be there. So how that child deals with that type of situation is very important.
It is.
It is. Because it's always going to be around. Yes. It was around when we were in school.
Yes. Yeah, and I always tell parents, if you feel that your child is being bullied, let me know. Tell your child to let someone know. Don't be bullied and then, go home and wait a day or wait 2 days
Right.
and tell your parent when they're being bullied, let us know so we can try to help work them through it. But I also kind of caution people too, that when you're working with a child who bullies, more likely than not their parent is or was a bully. So it takes a lot of work and pushing and disciplining to kind of change that mindset of that child. But we'll support that bully child as much as we can.
Right.
So, Ms. Jamison, would you say you were bullied in elementary?
Was I bullied? Occasionally, yeah, I was. I was bullied in elementary.
I had too many cousins. I wasn't bullied.
I was
I
bullied in
had too many
elementary.
relatives.
But I did.
Being picked on is being bullied, right?
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
And everybody was to some degree.
picked on.
Everybody was picked on a little
No, I
bit to
wasn't
some
picked on.
degree.
Yeah, and sometimes
Yes, you
I-
were,
I
Bishop.
wasn't picked
You
on.
weren't
Not
picked
at all.
on?
I picked on you.
You
I wasn't picked on.
See, you look. See, you look.
So let me ask you.
You just told on yourself.
Because I really enjoyed what you said, and it was really helpful. So instead of us pointing fingers, what issues are educators facing? I'm talking all educators, Battle Creek Public School, Lakeview, Hopper Creek, Penfield, St. Philip, that the public can help with. How can we help you all?
Okay.
Whatever y'all facing in that classroom, as the public, how can we help you? We get behind, our group get together and say, we're gonna help Miss Robinson, Jameson, school, classroom, whatever. How can the public help?
So I would say, remember earlier when you spoke about the child who might not have a dad or something at home? Say if you had time to volunteer in a school, volunteer, mentor. There's a lot of kids that need that support, and they might not have a dad or a mother for many reasons. So if you have the time and the opportunity, mentor kids. Come into school, spend time with the kids. I would tell parents, make sure you go to your parent-teacher conferences and have that conversation with your child's teacher so you know exactly where they're at, what they're doing, and always go prepared with a set of questions. Because when you're sitting there, you might not remember what you wanted to ask the teacher. Then you walk out and you say, oh my goodness, I didn't get a chance to ask them this, or they didn't tell me that. So go in and be prepared when you're having that conversation. Don't be afraid to advocate for your child. If someone gets upset because you're advocating for your child, then that's a problem. But be mindful of what that looks like. And so when I say that, your child comes home and they're upset because the teacher said something to them at school today. So don't jump on the I'm gonna be mad at the teacher bandwagon right now. Listen to what your child is saying and then say, you know what, I still expect you to go to school. I still expect you to be respectful, and I still expect you to receive that knowledge that teacher is trying to impart in you, and I, as the adult, will take care of that issue. Because sometimes when we have those conversations with parents, the parent will be like, that's not the exact story that they told me. So just be mindful of the relationship that you're having with the person that's teaching your child, and what that looks like in conversations. Sometimes kids need to be in adult conversations, and sometimes they don't. And I think if we just look at it that way as a partnership, I think we will get more out of it.
So help me with the perception, Ms. Robinson, Jamerson, and that is, I go to a Westlake, Westland or Westlake?
Westlake.
I go to Westlake,
That's a tongue twister.
and I look at that school, and it looks nice. Then I go to a Franklin Post School, and I see a total different building. How do I not discriminate, and why is it like that?
Well, you know what? I actually think Post Franklin building actually look kind of nice.
Well, I just picked that school, so let me change it. I'm picking. I'm saying why one school
has something that another school does not.
And then we're not supposed to say there's a difference. Why is that? Is it lack of money? Why? Because that's what we're doing. All we're doing is perceiving. Why one school has, I don't know, better uniforms than others. I'm just asking. I'm asking questions because these are questions people ask all the time. So it looks like they're doing better.
So one thing, and someone else might be a little more savvy at explaining this, but you have to think about that, your tax base too.
Okay.
So if you're looking at Battle Creek, how many homeowners do we have? How many of them are paying in the taxes, that go towards the school? How many are passing the millages that you need to have passed, to make improvements to your school? Because the state doesn't give us money for that. To improve our schools, we have to do a vote on a millage, and the taxpayer pays for that. So again, that goes back to that economic piece. If your communities aren't strong, your schools aren't going to be strong. And if people aren't willing to invest the money in the education, then your schools are not going to be strong.
Ms. Robinson, we have about 3 minutes. Say something to the people, whatever you want to say. Give us a closing remarks, and we're going to dismiss in prayer or close the prayer like we always do. But give us your final word.
Final word, I would say to the community of Battle Creek, let's begin to try to pull together, work together for the betterment for our children. Because they're the ones that suffer when adults can't get it right, and we're fighting over decisions, and then we have children sitting there wondering, okay, when am I going to get air conditioning in my school, or when am I going to get a smart board in my classroom? Let's begin as a city to look at what we need to invest in educationally for the betterment of all kids, all kids, and be active at your school.
I am just grateful to have had Ms. Tamara Robinson Jamerson. She's done a wonderful job. She's doing a wonderful job. I always close. I give honor to my ancestors. My mother's side, the late Leo Del Perry Sr., and my grandmother, Ruby Elizabeth Perry. And thank God my mom's still with me, with us, Georgia Lee Howard Perry. On my father's side, they're all gone now, but my grandfather, Edward West Smith, where I got my name from, and Georgia Gussie Smith, and also my father, the great Hugh Smith Sr. Again, one thing we have to have as a community, if we're going to network, we got to do what we're doing today. We're learning from each other. We never want to be blind and closed-minded. We learned a lot today from Ms. Jamerson. Everybody's supposed to have a map to know where you are, and we're supposed to have a globe. Once you know where you're at, you know time, you know space, and we know our present time. And as Issachar said in the Bible, they understood the time we're living in. We were given a challenge today. You in the city of Battle Creek, let us come together and look at our schools and find out what we can do for our school. Let's be something like John F. Kennedy said. Ask not what your country can do for you, but what can you do for the country? Let's not ask what the school can do for us, but how can we help our school? Because as Sister Jamerson said, it's all about the children. And as Martin said, we all love the children. Let's all pray together. Father, we thank you for today. We thank you for this privilege. We thank you for this great woman who I've known, done well with her life, her husband, proud of her so much. Continue to bless her at her school, and as she get promoted to the middle school right in Lakeview, we support her and we endorse her. This is our prayer in Jesus' name, amen.
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 Yeah.
All right, Sister
Very good.
Good job.
AccessVision, your voice, your community.